Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors get a 95-85 Game 1 victory over the Houston Rockets at Chase Center on Sunday. Happy Easter to all of you in America. It is, 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon, Monday here in Australia. So Easter's come and gone, but a happy Easter for the Warriors nonetheless in stealing home court advantage in the first game of the series. Just a couple of things from me, and then I'll jump into the comments because we've already got a heap here and the discussion can just band out from that. A couple of things for me. Obviously talked in the preview episode yesterday about the most optimistic reason for the Warriors winning this series is simply the fact they have the best two players in the series. And you can talk about so many different things, but to me, that is such a pivotal advantage that basically gives you no excuse as to why you would lose the series. And to me, in this game, Houston, we're going to talk about the offensive rebound, and we're going to talk about so many different things. But Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler being the best two players on the floor, that's what gets Golden State the victory in this game. Simple as that. You can throw everything else out in a game that was so physical, so defensive-minded. Both teams really struggled offensively. The shot making of Butler and particularly Steph, that shines even brighter in a game like this. And that was ultimately the difference in the game. Steph goes for 31. Was he like 12 of 19 shooting, I think? Just double checking. Yeah, 12 of 19, 5 of 9 from three-point range. Just a fantastic performance. We had all the narrative about, Amen Thompson being the Steph stopper after that three-point performance at Chase Center earlier in the month. Steph just comes out with a brilliant display, and some of the shot making, again, in a game like this, it just shines brighter even more. That three that he hit in the third quarter over Jalen Green to give the Warriors a 23-point lead at that point. The one late where the Rockets were within 4. The Rockets should have actually got the ball, but they gave the ball to the Warriors off. It was off Draymond, but I think the ref said it was off Jabari Smith. The Warriors get possession back with 6 on the shot clock. Steph just rolls into a 3 there to put the margin back out to 7 and give the Warriors some breathing room. Some extraordinary shot making in this game. And of course, we're going to get into the rebounding aspect of it, but I feel really sorry for my TV. Really apologies to my TV because I was just flat out yelling the entire second half. Is there anything more frustrating than offensive rebounds as a fan watching the game? Your team giving up offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities. Is there anything more frustrating? That and turnovers. If it wasn't for those two aspects, the Warriors win this game by 50, and the Warriors are probably going to win the series 4-0 in a sweep if it's not for the offensive rebounding and the turnovers, right? Because again, they've got a far more trustworthy offense with Steph and Jimmy, right? And that's ultimately the difference. And I know rebounding is a skill, right? And Steve Kerr just said in his post-game press conference, like, Houston are going to get some offensive rebounds in this series, but 22-6 in that area. And to me, the run that the Rockets went on in the second half, where again, the Warriors with 7 minutes or just under 7 minutes to go in the third, up 23, you think this is fantastic. Game's basically over. Nah, the Rockets basically just bashed their way into it. It was nothing pretty from the Rockets. It wasn't as if they just started hitting a bunch of threes and got back into the game. It was simply just belting the Warriors on the offensive glass. 22-6. Steven Adams had 12 boards in 20 minutes. And that, for a period there, got Houston back into the game and looked as if they got back within 3 with still over 6 minutes remaining. Looked like that was going to be a really decisive aspect to this game. And it still was, to a degree, but the Warriors were able to hold on in the end and take game 1 in what was not a pretty game to watch by either team. I think both teams will look at it and say there is so much, plenty to improve upon. If I'm a Rockets fan and I look at this, there's part of me that's somewhat optimistic in thinking that, well, Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green couldn't possibly play any worse than that. But again, from a Warrior perspective, it's reiterating, hey, we've got the best two players in this series. And usually if you've got the best two players, you should be winning, right? And that's, I think, the overarching theme from this game. And hopefully from a Warrior perspective, the overall arching theme for the series. You got Steph Curry, you got Jimmy Butler. Şengün was really good in the first half, really good, quieting down a little bit in the second half. But really, I actually thought Houston might have been better when Adams was on the floor than Şengün. And we're going to get into some of this, but I think the Warriors might be happy enough with allowing Şengün to get his point and asking him to make shots, tough shots over Draymond, because there were some times in the second half where Draymond played him really well. And to me, you're almost allowing that if it means that Jalen Green can't get going, Van Vliet can't get going, they can't hit shots from the perimeter. And if it means that Şengün actually stays out on the floor and Adams goes back to the bench, like if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm looking at this and thinking, could I have got Steven Adams some more minutes? Because in terms of the backup big men, he absolutely smacked Kevon Looney and Quentin Post. Like Looney and Post were so ineffective and Steven Adams was fantastic. I think he might have been like the only Rocket that was a plus minus in this game. Just double checking here. Yeah, he was a +4. Everyone else in the negatives from a Houston perspective. So that's probably the one thing for me if I'm Ime Udoka. Could I have got Steven Adams out there a bit more? But it is hard. Like, do they go to the double big lineup more going forward here? I don't know. Really, really interesting to see Steve Kerr going to a double big lineup himself of Quentin Post and Kevon Looney. Have those two guys played together so far this season? I can't remember a time. So that was extraordinary in both the first and the second half, but it didn't really matter. Like the Rockets were still obliterating the Warriors on the boards. And that's the issue for me. If Kevon Looney isn't going to be out there matching it with Steven Adams, getting on the glass, like what is he doing? And that's a real problem for the Warriors going forward here. But alas, doesn't matter. They get the win in game one, and hopefully they can do something to ensure that that offensive rebounding differential isn't the same moving forward. Because if it's going to continue being like that, I don't think the Warriors are going to win the series, right? I think they need, yes, you can say Houston are going to have an advantage on the offensive glass, no doubt about that. But that kind of differential, I don't think you can win a series like that, right? So the Warriors need to get down to business and work out what they can do, what kind of lineups they can put out there to try and negate that, and specifically negate what Steven Adams did, particularly in that second half. All right, sorry, guys. Let me get into your comments. Logan says, how does Steve Kerr see Rockets getting offensive rebound after offensive rebound over and over and not play lineups with Looney and Gee? The Warriors should have a 30-point lead. I think the Santos one might be the biggest one. He only played 6.5 minutes, was pretty effective, particularly in that first half. Hit a three. I think he had another layup, he got to the free throw line one time as well, cutting to the rim. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest factor. Looney only played 8.5 minutes, but his 8.5 minutes, he had one rebound. And so, to me, like you can't really, like you're putting Looney out there to rebound the ball, right? And if he can't do that, then what is actually the point of having him out there, right? If he's going to get torched by Steven Adams anyway on the glass, I don't know. Logan says, Curry's pissed me off just letting the Rockets eat on the glass over and over. Sickening. Says, Gee Santos only playing 6 minutes and Buddy playing 15 is a horrible offense. Rockets would be down 30 plus if the Warriors could rebound. Facts. Like, at the end of the day, the Warriors were their own worst enemy with not being able to secure rebounds, obviously. And there were some turnovers as well that I just thought, okay, now I know they won the turnover battle. Houston had 17 or 16 to Golden State's 11, but there were a couple. I know there was a play, the Warriors still up like 20 in the third quarter. Draymond gets the rebound, tries to hit an outlet pass, which he just didn't need to do, and it gets cut off. Basically 1 foot in front of him, and then the Rockets get a layup out of it. And I just thought that's the kind of play. You're up 20. You don't need to make that Hail Mary play. You just need to get the ball, dribble up the floor, and get into a set. Like, you don't need to look for a home run hit in that situation. When you're up 20, the game's under your control. And those kind of frustrating turnovers. I know Steph played really well, but there are a couple of times I just thought Steph was out of control a little bit, just like driving into traffic. And I'm like, man, just like pull the ball out. Okay, you don't need to be driving into traffic with 18 seconds still left on the shot clock, right? Just pull it back out, run a set, okay? It's about game management in those situations when you're up 20, okay? Because you shouldn't lose from that situation if you just play smartly and you remain playing hard. And the Warriors, unfortunately, they had some issues, obviously, in the second half with those kind of things. GSW says, completely bullied in rebounding. Logan says, should be a 20-plus win if not for the small ball lineups and playing Buddy, who does nothing. Buddy was actually all right in the first half. His second half was disastrous. My only issue, like, you can complain about the small ball lineups, but in Kerr's credit, like, he went to a double big lineup of Post and Looney, and they still got smacked. Right? So what's the answer? I've seen people on social media say, get Trace out there, good rebounder. See if he can match the physicality of Steven Adams. Trace has played like 5 meaningful minutes in the last 3 months. Okay, I'm not putting him out there in a playoff game at this point. I'm just not. Other people are saying Kuminga, try and match his size and athleticism. Is Kuminga going to come out engaged enough to be a strong rebounding presence at this point? That's a real question mark. Who knows? And the other thing is Kuminga actually a good rebounder? I'm not, I'm not sure Jonathan Kuminga's a great rebounder. Like now, he's had games, particularly prior to the ankle injury, where he did have like 8, 9 rebound games. But it comes and goes with him. Like, let's not say that we're putting Jonathan Kuminga out there specifically to rebound, because I don't think he's an elite rebounder. You're not doing it for that. So I don't know what the answer is. If Kevon, like the answer should be Kevon Looney, but he was really poor in this game in his 8.5 minutes. He was, right? He wasn't grabbing the boards, right? And Steven Adams was completely outplaying him. Quinton Post was getting thrown around a bit from Steven Adams and Şengün, so that's going to be a problem playing him moving forward. I don't know. Like, you're just going to have to hope like hell that Steph and Jimmy, the fact they're the best two players in the series and the best two offensive players, that kind of just overcomes what the Rockets are going to do to the Warriors on the offensive glass. I don't know. Are there any answers? I think everyone just has to play like you just have to. It has to be a team mentality. It has to be a team mentality, and I think that's always the case in any level of basketball. Like, I know guys in my social league team, there are guys who just don't rebound, who are just always looking for the outlet pass in transitions. Like, no, like, I'm playing as one of the bigger guys. I'm boxing out, and I want you guys to come from the wing and try and get the boards. Okay, it shouldn't be left to 2 or 3. It needs to be an all-in team. Maybe one guy trying to run in transition, but you can't have multiple guys. That's what I, get frustrated with in my social league team. Like, I don't know. It's just sometimes it's just see ball, get ball, right? And you just got to be harder than the guy next to you. And the Warriors, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, aside from saying you got to look at it from a team mentality. And Draymond's going to be boxing out guys, and some of the biggest are going to be boxing out guys, and guys like Moses and Pods and whoever else, like, they have to come back to rebound the ball. Simple as that. Logan says no analyst talked about it, but do the Rockets even have one reliable scorer? I guess Şengün, but even then, he's not that guy yet. Yeah, I actually think, as I said before, I think the Warriors might live with Şengün just like playing Draymond 1-on-1, and like I think we saw that. Like, most times when Draymond was guarding him 1-on-1, there wasn't really any help or anything like that. It's more so, hey, if he scores over him, fine, fantastic, but we don't want the shooters to get going. I actually think that's a pretty good strategy. And again, Şengün was decent in this game. What did he have? 25, 26 points in the end. He had 26 and 9, but he had 1 assist in the game. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it, because there's also times where Dre does playing pretty well straight up. So I'm okay with that moving forward. Logan says, anyone else notice when Jimmy jumps high for a mid-range shot, he usually makes them? Yeah, gets that lift out of his legs. What did we get out rebounded by 30? Did big lineups with Steph and Jimmy? These are the adjustments Kerr need to make. Dan Nick says they were grabbing Steph and not a single call is pathetic. We couldn't get an offensive rebound. I was literally going to cry if we choked. JK offers more than Buddy. Kerr should bench Hield ASAP. I do think there's an opportunity to like bench Buddy Hield, right? And say, okay, we're going to play Gee or we're going to play Kuminga, because that does obviously allow you to be a little bit stronger on the glass, does allow you to match up a little bit more size and athletic wise. And do you need Buddy shooting? I don't know, maybe, but like everything's going through Steph and Jimmy. It's not like Gee is a complete non-threat from the 3-point line. Like, he took one today and made it. Like, Kuminga, yeah, more so, but he can also give you some scoring punch. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. Again, I thought Buddy was all right in the first half, but his second half minutes were disastrous. Priscilla says Rockets are number 1 in offense and defensive rebounding. What do you expect? Warriors are 5th. Yeah, like I'm not asking for the Warriors to go out there and get more offensive rebounds than the Rockets. Like, I know there's going to be a differential. You just don't want the differential to be 16, like minus 16 in offensive boards, and I think it was minus 16 as well in overall rebounds. Like, I get it. They miss more shots than the Warriors, so that therefore gives them more opportunity to get offensive rebounds. Like, I get it, but it's still not great nonetheless. I'm just looking at the box score here. Fred VanVleet was 4 of 19 and 2 of 13 from deep. That is Man, I was like waiting the entire second half. I was like, is Fred VanVleet going to make a shot? Is he going to make a shot? And he just kept missing and missing. And then he finally made one at one point, but it was kind of too late. And then Moses kind of answered that with a big corner three in the final 3 minutes there. Logan says, play Looney and Gee more and not Buddy, and all is forgiven. Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens moving forward. Priscilla says, on the bright side, it looks like Post has improved on his defense, so that's a plus. I don't know. I was kind of optimistic about Quinton Post going into this series. Not sure about it. He played 12 minutes. He went 0 of 3, 0 of 2 from deep, had 1 rebound and 1 assist, and I suppose he was a +4, but it wasn't great. Right, it wasn't great. And and I tweeted about this, he'd be breathing a big sigh of relief at the end of that third quarter when the Warriors should have taken the final shot. He took a pretty contested corner three with 5 seconds. They've airballed it, and then the Rockets got out in transition. Tari Eason had a three at the buzzer. If Eason had made that, I tell you what, Quinton Post, he would have been the Warriors wouldn't have been happy, and it would have been fairly and squarely on Quinton Post. Then Nick says, this felt like 2016. No team hit 100 points. What did they say on TNT afterwards? I think there were 30 games this season throughout the regular season where on over obviously 1,000 games being played, or however many games there are in the regular season. It was like 30 where both teams didn't score 100. It's what we're going to see, right? It's what we're going to see. Rockets are elite defensively, but their shot making is dreadful. It really is. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, you're just not really trusting those guys. And, Aman Thompson, couple of post-up opportunities over Steph, but again, his jump shot isn't a threat. Şengün, you're just going to play him one-on-one and hope that Draymond can do a good enough job and that the other guys can't get going. Then next says, Steve put atrocious lineups on the third when the Rockets cut the lead to 3. No more 3-guard lineups. Kurt has to choose between Pods and Moody, not both. So I don't know what the answer is, because I suppose do you trust Looney and say, Loon, you're really bad in this game, but clearly we're going to need some rebounding, so you've got to play a lot more. Maybe that's the case, right? Maybe you just go to Loon and say, you just got to be bigger for us going forward, because you're going to need to be. But otherwise, I don't know what the answer is, because he did play a double. I'm not putting this on Steve. I'm sorry. I'm not putting this on Steve. He put Quinton Post and Kevon Looney out there for a period, and they still got smacked on the glass. So, I don't know what you want him to do. Right? I don't know. I don't get the Steve hate. I really don't. I thought this was he made an adjustment. He went to a 2-man combination he hasn't tried for the entire season, right, in game 1 of the playoffs. And credit to him for trying that. Those guys just didn't show up. Quinton Post, not strong enough on the glass. Loon usually wasn't in this game. Right? That's not on Steve. That's on those two guys for not being very good. Simple as that. Tired, but Double March says, yours sound like your team lost. Yeah, take the win. We won 95-85, right? Who cares about the rebounding? When we look back at this game in, I was going to say 10 years' time. It doesn't even need to be 10 years' time. In the second round, if we advance, right, no one's going to be looking back at game 1 and that rebounding edge of 22-6 on the offensive glass. Okay, take the win. We move on. Tired Basketball fan says, I'm so sure Steph only got 2 foul calls this entire game. This is going to be a problem. Phoenix says, we got killed on the board and held the second seed to 85 points. Tired Basketball fan says, we want to win the war, not just the battle. I mean, from an optimistic perspective, maybe you look at it and say, well, the Warriors aren't going to get out-rebounded by 16 on the offensive glass again, and they still won this game by 10. So, I don't know. Logan says, another game, Rockets get much more much more points from the offensive rebounds and we lose easily. And Decker says, there's always a Curry stopper until it's time to stop Curry. Yeah, man, great performance from Steph. Great performance. I think they're just the two big things to take out of it. Steph and Jimmy, best 2 players on the floor, and that's why the Warriors win. But there is obviously a concern with the rebounding going forward. No doubt about that. Just Blow says, Pods wasn't ready for the lights. I disagree completely. He was the Warriors' 3rd best player. Was he not Golden State's 3rd best player in this game? He had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and was a team high +17. Brandon Podziemski was Golden State's 3rd best player. 5 of 13, 3 of 8. Okay, didn't shoot the ball overly well. but I don't think you can ever complain about Pods not playing hard, right? And I don't think he's gonna be a lesser version of himself in the playoffs. Like he's always now, is he gonna miss some shots at times? Yeah, he is, but he also does that during the regular season, right? He still is gonna play as hard as ever, right? Absolutely loved the hustle play to try and tip that miss in down the stretch. And he basically went over the back of two Rockets players to try and tip it in, missed it. But because he took two Rockets players with him, Draymond was wide open under the basket and got a layup out of it. I love that play. It's a couple of nice plays from him and Moses down the stretch. There's a play before that defensively where Moses rolled over from the weak side and got a hand in under the basket to force the Rockets steal. Thought that was a great play. So I thought Moses and Pods, they didn't shoot the ball overly well, but I don't think they succumbed to the brighter lights of the playoffs by any means. So I'm comfortable enough with those guys moving forward. Post is probably a different story altogether. I'm not sure about him moving forward, but otherwise, Gee looked fine in a playoff atmosphere in his 6.5 minutes, albeit limited minutes, albeit. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens moving forward. But Pods, I thought was pretty good. Empire said in the fourth quarter, Pods was struggling at half court and Curry was wide open next to him and Pods didn't pass it. Look, was it a perfect game? No, like he made some mistakes, but man, again, I think he was Warriors' third best player. Thai basketball fan says, just having a look here. Sorry. Sorry, I'm missing a heap of comments here. Sorry, guys. Thai basketball fan. Steph is older now, so he has some off games, and it's hilarious every time the stuff they make up. Double Marsh says Moody did a great job on Green. Maddie says Steph and Butler carried us. Our inside presence needs a lot of work. Needs a lot of work, but it's also just like the floor of the roster, right? Like if you could go and get a Steven Adams type right now, you would. But this is the playoffs. This is the roster the Warriors have. Part of it is just this is the issue with the roster, right? And therefore, the Rockets are going to have this advantage on the glass. But again, it's about not making it such a big differential. Thai basketball fan says Moody with two huge shots as well, despite barely shooting the whole game. Yeah, he went 2 of 5, 1 of 4, and his two makes with that like jump shot at the end of the buzzer from mid range when Pods nearly traveled and kind of got caught in the lane. Then Moses bailed the Warriors out, and then he hit that big corner three a few minutes later. Logan says game would have been over in the third if not for the stupid offensive rebounding. Facts. Thai basketball fan Moody Mitty. Sounds like Kendrick Perkins. Moody Mitty was huge after so many shot clock violations with players just not looking to shoot with seconds on the clock. There are a couple of plays where Steph and Jimmy just didn't get involved at all. And I just thought, like, there was one. What was the one where GP2 had it, and then he like kicked it out to Buddy at the end of the shot clock, and Buddy had to like catch and shoot in the one motion, airballed it, and that whole possession, the ball just didn't get back to Steph or Jimmy. And I just thought, okay, like those guys have got to be touching the ball on every possession, and they've got to be touching the ball in the final 12 seconds of every possession, right? Now, the ball might end up with a different guy for the shot at the end of the possession, but like you can't have a possession where the ball is out, like Steph and Jimmy are on the floor together and they don't touch the ball in the final 12 seconds of the shot clock. Like that's inexcusable to me. And part of it is on Steph and Jimmy to actually demand the ball and say, hey, shot clock running down, give me the damn ball, let me make a play. Empire says, I was kind of surprised that Kerr put Looney and Post in the same lineup. Thai basketball fan says, I was shocked. Love did a full double take. Yeah, I was shocked too. I don't think we've seen it all season. Like, he made an adjustment, and I'm not sure why fans are really putting this on Steve. I don't think it was on Steve. I just think if Post and Looney were better, we wouldn't be having this conversation. FTW Clan says, if the Rockets are going to get that many extra possessions on the offensive glass, it makes the Warriors limiting their turnovers and forcing turnovers themselves even more crucial. Absolutely. Robbie says, I feel like JK can help with the rebounding. He can if he's engaged and playing hard, and now having 3 straight DMPs, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. It's going to be a huge risk. Now, maybe it's a risk you have to take if like the same thing's happening in the first half on when's the next game? Wednesday, and you're down by 10. Maybe you got to take that risk in that scenario. But Otherwise, maybe it's a risk you don't take when you're actually well up in the game kind of thing. Thandega says, if Pods continues to give us 15 plus, we are good. I thought he was fine. I don't get that Pods negativity before. Thai basketball fan says, the Warriors winning game 1 kind of sets the stage for a Kuminga experiment in game 2, but it's still a bit of a gamble. Interesting point. It's like, can you experiment a little bit? You've got one on the road now, right? Can you experiment a little bit more in game 2? Part of me says, yeah, you can. The other part of me says, no, you go out and you win game 2 and you make a real decisive move in the series. Because if the Warriors go up 2-0 on the road, heading back to Chase Center, that's almost series over. Don't want to count the chickens before they hatch, but if they did win game 2, that's almost series over. So maybe you almost have to go harder to try and win game 2. Don't know. We'll wait and see. Yorgmoth says, why did Buddy play 15 minutes? Where is Guy Santos? I don't know. I thought Buddy was okay in the first half. Maybe I've got some different colored glasses on. I thought there was a couple of big plays where Jabari Smith kind of tried to ISO on Buddy and he just fell over and the Warriors got a steal out of it. And then there's another one where the ball ended up with Buddy. He didn't shoot it straight away. And then he kind of took Jabari Smith ISO and scored over. And I was like, that's kind of a massive couple of possessions because I think Jabari Smith's just a better player than Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield got the better of both those possessions. So I don't know. He probably got too much run in the second half, right? I think that's, he made some mistakes. The one where the ball kind of tipped out to him near the sideline and he just didn't grab the ball and let the ball he fumbled it out of bounds. I was like, man, what are you doing? Grab the ball with 2 hands. Grab the ball with 2 hands. Secure the defensive rebound. And instead, he just fumbled the ball out of bounds. The Rockets get another possession. Like, what are you doing, man? Come on. Thai basketball fan, the rebounding has to be better than this, but if we zoom out, we knew this was one of the biggest advantages for them. We got to accept this to some degree. Yep, I agree with that. Robbie says, JK was averaging 7 rebounds in 10 games before he got hurt. He's very capable. He's capable. He was also in a big offensive role at that point as well, averaging nearly 25 points a game. Can you bring him back out and say, all right, you're going to be a very supplementary offensive player, but we really need you to do the little things. We really need you to hustle. We really need you to crash the glass. Is he going to buy into that? I have my doubts. I think Steve has his doubts, and that's why he's out of the rotation, right? If JK could settle into off the ball stuff, the very, very odd catch and shoot, which we know the defense is going to give him, and otherwise cutting to the rim, crashing the O glass, all this kind of different stuff, then that might work. But unfortunately, and it's probably why Guy's capable of that kind of stuff. It's probably why he should be playing more at the moment and why he's playing at all over Kuminga. But JK still views himself as his offensive star, and that the one time the ball swings to him and he just holds it there and then he drives and turns the ball over, Steve's going to be on the sidelines going, this is why I don't have him out there, right? So I don't know. Maddie says, can someone explain why we are still playing Hield 10 plus minutes? I don't get it. Moody has an almost identical 3-point percentage. Interesting. So are you saying that Moses played 28 minutes in this game and you'd actually just prefer Moses to play 40 and just cut the Buddy Hield minutes out entirely? Maybe. I still think there is an idea here that, hey, at the very least, defenses close out the Buddy Hield in a way they don't do for anyone else on this roster aside from Steph. And that's still why he gets minutes. Okay. He's also a third guard. He's the only guard essentially that comes off the bench, unless you want to call GP2 a guard, which the way he plays on offense is more like a big man, I suppose, in terms of diving to the rim and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle. I can see why Steve's going to him, but I can also see why fans don't want anybody Hield whatsoever. Enough Crypto says Buddy opens the game up. Looney clutters the paint. Yeah. Samuel Wong says more TGD plus Gee. I agree with the Gee part, but they're just not going to, you're not going to go back to TJD when he's played 5 meaningful minutes in the last 3 months. It just ain't going to happen. J Talk says, Kerr had me screaming unspeakable things in my TV. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been a 20-plus point blowout. It's like what Charles Barkley was saying at after the game, where he was being asked, like, okay, well, what do the Rockets need to do in this game? Like, what does Ime Udoka need to do moving forward? And Charles Barkley was like, Ime Udoka, like, how about Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet just hit some shots? Like, that's not an Ime Udoka thing. How about Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green just be better? And I'm kind of the same with the Warriors. It's like, Steve Kerr isn't the one out there rebounding the ball. Now, could he have put some better lineups out there that could rebound the ball? Maybe, but he also went to a double big lineup of Quentin Post and Kevon Looney, right? Let's not suggest he was out there playing Draymond center the absolute entire game, right? He did try and make an adjustment. It's just Loon and Post weren't rebounding. I don't know. To me, it's just not. It's not a Kerr thing. It's not a Kerr problem. Logan says TJD should get some spot minutes to see what he has. Enough Crypto says TJD too small. He's only 6'9", but he's probably he's a decent rebounder. B Master says he would suck for the most part, was still +7, +. Basically, we all shot terribly, partly due to their defense. J Talk says the answer is effort. I forgot I was watching a playoff game. Had to look at my calendar to make sure it wasn't January. Yeah. You just got to, particularly with the rebounding, it's just got to be a team aspect, and you just got to play hard. Simple as that. There's no real other answer, I don't think. Maddie says in the States, social league is called intramurals. I've never heard that whatsoever. Fair enough. Intramurals. There you go. B-Master. Yeah, nobody looked like they were playing seriously this game. It was funny after the intensity of the playing games, but defense probably colors that perspective too. I disagree. I think it was pretty intense. I don't know. Maybe that's just me because the game was getting close down the stretch and I was intense, couldn't sit still on the couch, yelling at the TV. I don't know. Felt pretty intense to me. Beamer says, what Adams does is dominate rebounding. Of course, we can't get rebounds. We did good to get the few we did get. It's just what the Rockets are best at. Logan says, Peter, do you think you could get some rebounds in that game? I think you could. I think I had... I reckon I nearly had a 20-20 game on Tuesday night. I'd finished with 15, and they don't count your rebounding numbers, unfortunately, but I reckon I definitely had a double-double, and I reckon I've had at least 15 boards in the game, so maybe get me out there. Maddie says, I'm ready to bench Shield. His shooting is so sporadic, it's not worth the baggage it comes with. Potentially. Steezy says, rebounding and defense are... Sorry, I lost it. Effort plays. Tire Basketball Fan says they need to play better offensively when Adams is on to minimize the impact. Agree with that. It's kind of what I said yesterday in the preview episode. Basically saying, if Ime Udoka is going to go to Adams and Şengün together, then the Warriors offense needs to be better to try and force those guys off the floor, basically. Or at least, obviously one of those guys off the floor. So that's a big factor. B-Mus says, Rockets just seem good at rushing three-point shots for everyone. It's likely not just bad luck. Everybody shot like crap. All right, I'm going to skip through a few here, get to some more recent comments. Double Marsh says, Post will improve rookie playing his first playoff game. Potentially, I don't think it could have got much worse than his 12 minutes in this game. I don't think he was good at all. And I'm a huge Quentin Post fan. And I'm not asking for him to be out of the rotation at all, but you might have to have a pretty quick trigger on him if you give him a few first quarter minutes and he doesn't look like it. Then you might have to, his 12 minutes, if he comes out and produces those kind of minutes again in game 2, then you might see him only play 5-6 minutes. Tire Basketball Fan, I knew that post 3 was going to be ugly. They got to get him earlier looks. I actually enjoyed his pump fake. I really want him to add that to his game in the offseason. So the one early in the first half where he pump faked the top of the key 3 and then drove, and he looked pretty comfortable. And then he just I don't know if he got blocked by the rim or what the hell happened. He just didn't make the shot. But that to me, because the further he goes in his career, the further defense is going to be okay, this guy's an elite shooter. We need to close out to him hard. And that's when I think it's going to be important for him to develop some kind of off the dribble game where he can pump fake, get by a guy and either get to the rim and finish or obviously kick out and make plays from there. So that's going to be probably on top of obviously the defense and the rebounding. That's going to be the biggest part of his offensive game, I suppose, that I'd be looking at in the offseason. Fancy Pants Dancer, great name, says there were a couple of times where Buddy had the ball on perimeter and just froze and Jimmy was visibly frustrated. Yep. Yeah, agree with that. Just Blow says, do we think Kuminga is out because we've lost more since his return? I think Steve's has just decided, like, I can't play Kuminga, Butler, Draymond together. And I can't, like, there is a part of it. And Steve said this, like, after the Jimmy trade, we fell into a very comfortable rotation, a very successful, effective rotation. JK wasn't part of that. And he came back and, yeah, he, mucked things up a little bit, right? Should Kuminga still be getting minutes? I don't know. I'm so on the fence with like this kind of thing, and I'm kind of over it. I'm really like over it. I'm at a point where it's like, all right, it's clearly not going to work under Steve Kerr. I think he's a really, really talented player. Can he go and be something pretty significant somewhere else? Yeah, I think so. But it's clearly just not going to be at the Warriors. So I'm almost got my eyes ahead to like what can we get for him in a sign and trade more than anything. Double and Marsh says Looney will watch game video and figure out how to get more rebounds. Hope so. If he can go toe to toe with Domantas Sabonis in a playoff series, he can go toe to toe with Steven Adams, surely. Mr. MRA Space says, was Kuminga sitting on the bench? I didn't see him. He was a ghost. Yeah, he was there. You could see him. Steve says, if Houston had a better offensive game, the Warriors lose. Small ball is not sustainable. Maddie says there's no way Jalen and Fred VanVleet play this game this bad 2 times in a row. Yeah, I think if you're a Rockets fan, your most optimistic perspective is those two guys shot 7 of 34 from the floor and 2 of 17 from 3-point range. Now, in saying that, there isn't like a little bit more of a long-term concern with the fact that Green was pretty bad in his 3 games prior at the end of the regular season. So this wasn't like a one-off bad performance from Jalen Green. He's been bad for a few games now. So maybe like, do you expect him to bounce back significantly? He's going to be better than what he was today, but is he going to be this like 20-point per game scorer for the Rockets? Maybe not. Logan says Guy Santos is the one guy who plays with so much intensity and rebounding. Yep. Like maybe he needs some minutes or more minutes than what he got. Who you is boy says TJD should have been in there instead of learning that lineup with Post, Kavon, and Post lack speed and athleticism. Yeah, I actually don't hate that. I don't hate Post and TJD as a combination. However, Steve's not going to put 2 young centers out there at the one time in a playoff matchup. He's just not. I don't think he is. B-Slot says Kuminga on his way out. I believe so. Loon hasn't rebounded well in a couple of months, which brings his value to 0, in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him in free agency. Double Marsh says, a man had 4 fouls. Maybe Warriors could get him to foul out in the future games. Might be more so on the refs to foul him out, more so than the Warriors, because as has already been commented previously in this chat, a lot of times where Steph's getting held onto and refs aren't calling it. Jamu says, nothing we can do with rebounding this year. We should draft Rocco Zakarsky in 2 months with a 2nd-round pick. Jamu, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Are you an Australian? Rocco Zakarsky's Australian. Alex Condon might be the one, I think, as a 2nd-round pick as an Australian who might try and look at. Obviously, national championship winner, has now declared for the draft, which is a little bit disappointing from my perspective because he was actually tied. If he wasn't going to go to the NBA, he's actually tied to coming back and being a Australian rules footballer for my team, Collingwood. So he was either going to a choice between NBA and AFL. Obviously, a lot more money in the NBA. So you're definitely going to go there first and foremost. He probably coming back as a Category B rookie to AFL. He probably would have been getting paid like 100K a year, like pretty much like average standard money for anyone. So yeah, definitely choosing the NBA and has declared for the draft. And I've seen a few mock drafts with him around the 30 to 40 range, which the Warriors will have an early pick in the 40s in the 2nd round. Jackson says we have to remind ourselves that this was a road game. The role players will shoot worse than that at home, especially young role players. Ty Basketball fan says, I'm barely thinking beyond game 2 and you're already drafting. Lol. Just Boy says, sure would have been nice to have Cam Johnson right now. Would be helpful. Tired basketball fans says, I think the Warriors have to box out more because once it's in the air, they just have no chance. They're so much shorter. Jamie says, we are sweeping the Rockets. Wouldn't go that far, but we'll wait and see. I mean, it was one. So those 18 minutes between kind of the start of the second quarter and halfway through the third, man, that was some great basketball to watch from a Warrior perspective because we were really, really dominant. And those 18 minutes looked like a period where how can the Rockets win this series? How can they possibly win this series? Now, from that point, we got an idea of how they can still win this series through the immense rebounding differential. Sorry. And we'll wait and see how much of a factor that plays moving forward. But clearly, from a Houston perspective, they're just going to have to hit some shots as well. Like, this is kind of the thing for Houston. They did a pretty good job defensively on the Warriors. They out-rebounded the Warriors like crazy. Like, this is the blueprint to win, and yet they just couldn't get anywhere near enough offense. Like, they had 34 points in the first. It's wild. The Warriors had 47 points at halftime. You think, okay, how much are we down by? Oh, we're up by 13 because the Rockets were held to a season worst 34 first half points. Kind of wild. Jamie says, bingo, you are so right in regards to being Australian, I think. Good stuff. Berserk Monk says, was kind of funny that Rockets ran that double big for so long that Kerr was like, oh yeah, Loon QP go out there, lasted like 1 minute. Tired basketball fan says, watch how no one will mention a man when it comes to Steph's performance this game, but when he scores 3 points and manages the courage stopper despite the entire team in the schedule and the refs defending him. Yeah, that was, in fairness, I think that game that the Warriors lost to the Rockets at the end of the regular season, was that like their 4th game in 7 nights or something? And Steph was like just coming back from his pelvic contusion or whatever. So, Steve says Loon is in the game for his offensive set that he helped set up. Otherwise, he would not be out there. He's one of the best rebounders in the league, right, per 100 possessions. Kevon Looney is. Like, and I don't know where that's gone. Like, he needs to get back to that, right? So, like, remember him in the 2023 playoffs against the Kings, just O-board after O-board. Like, was absolutely huge. And, even in the 2022 playoffs as well. And he's got to get back to that because he got his 8.5 minutes today, and he would have got more if he was more effective in those 8.5 minutes. He simply wasn't, to me. He had 1 rebound in 8.5 minutes. That can't happen. Unless the Rockets are shooting the lights out and you literally don't have a chance to get rebounds. They shot less than 40% from the floor in this game, 20.7% from three-point range. There is no excuse for Kevon Looney, therefore, to have 1 rebound in 8.5 minutes. Sorry, that's his one job to me. That's his one job, to keep Steven Adams off the glass and to get some rebounds himself. Didn't do it. All right, I'm going to finish it up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Going to get another episode out between now and Game 2 with some more comments. Might even try and get some Rockets perspective from it as well, so be on the lookout for that. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. We've got 5 minutes until the annual Easter Monday clash between Hawthorn and Geelong in the AFL. So I'm going to go watch that. Be more content up on bluemanhoop.com tomorrow morning PT time for those of you in the Bay Area or America in general. Thanks again to everyone who has commented, or if you're tuning into the replay or via your podcast feed. Support is much appreciated. The Warriors go up 1-0. Let's hope they can go up 2-0 on Wednesday at Toyota Center against the Rockets. But I will be back, as I said, for another episode between now and then. Thanks, guys.